Hi, CMPT 140 students, and welcome to week 2. Before we get started today, I just wanted to note that I have noticed not a lot of you have been coming to the tutorials or help hours, which is completely okay as long as you don't need help. But just to reiterate, if you are looking to get help from either a TA or from me, we do have tutorial hours, we do have help hours that you can engage in. They're all through our course Discord, and the links to that and all the information and the schedule is all posted on the Canvas page under how to get help on assignments, labs, and course content. So take a look at that. If you still are having troubles finding it, you can send me an email and I can help direct you in the right location. There we go. I already need some more coffee today. Oh my goodness. But today we're going to start jumping into chapter 6. And chapter 6 was all about interaction and events. So before we go through these exercise slides, make sure that you've read the textbook, because I'm not going to cover everything that's in the textbook. There's lots of good definitions there that are great for multiple choice type questions on exams. Lots of good explanation that will help supplement what we're doing in these exercises. Oops, here we go. So the very first exercise I'm going to actually leave for you to do on your own, because it's a good test of, do we still remember what we read in the textbook? In the textbook, we talked about 4 different definitions: what a user is, what the system is, what a user action is, and what system feedback is. And in this exercise, we have an example of a program, and we want you to answer, what are all 4 of those things in the context of this program? The solution is posted on the course website under the same place where you clicked on the slides. The second bullet point under has all the solutions to the exercises. So you can fill those things out. You can check to see if your answer matches what we say the correct answer is. And if you have questions about why we came to that, how did we get that, why this and not that, you can come to help hours. You can post in the discussion boards. We'd be happy to chat more about it. All right. Okay, we're going to jump into our first demo here. We have a program down here that has 5 different function calls. So we're setting our background color, we're setting a color for our next shape, we're drawing a rectangle or a square, we're setting a new color or the same color for our next shape, and then we're drawing another thing here. This is what we would call a run to completion program, which is oftentimes what we would think of when we think of programming, where we give the computer a set of instructions, they start at the top of those instructions, and they go line by line by line through that. And this chapter was all about how, with processing, we can do things in a little bit more of an interactive way. So we give the user a bit more power to interact with our programs. So we want to take this code here and write the same type of program, but in an interactive mode. So I'm just going to bring over our processing screen here. So remember, when you open processing, you need to make sure that you go up into this top right corner here and make sure it's not on Java, it should be on Python. And if you don't have the Python option, I'm going to just get rid of this one. That was Java. Oops, I don't want to save that. This is not a Java class. If you don't have the Python option, you'll go back to chapter 3 where I go over how you install that, or you can come to the help hours. Did I mention there's help hours? All right, enough about help hours. Okay, so in the textbook, we talked about when we're making an interactive program, we need to use some special functions that processing is expecting of us. So we're telling the computer, hey, this is an interactive function. Don't just do a run to completion function. We want you to do something slightly different. And the way we do that is through 2 functions. One is called setup. Whoops. And one is called draw. And remember, I have to use my def keyword to tell the computer I'm defining what I want these functions to do. We know they're special because they are colored in blue on processing. And they're what's going to tell our computer, hey, we want to use an interactive program. We want to give the user more power in our program. The setup function, if you'll remember from the textbook, is run once at the very beginning of the program. So right when it's starting, it's literally setting up our environment the way we want it to be. The draw function, on the other hand, is a function that gets called multiple times per second and effectively redraws that canvas we have. So it's going to give us the power to make things look like they're moving, to give us the power for users to interact, and we could change things like different colors. We're going to see lots and lots of examples of how we can use that draw function to do different things. Okay. Now we want to take this, we know we're going to want to do probably these same kind of commands, but we need to decide where we're going to put them, in the setup function or in the draw function. Setup is run once, so things that we want to do once should be put in there. Draw, again, is done multiple times, so if we wanted to do something a whole bunch of times over and over, we would put it in there. Now this is a little bit of a tricky question. Because we're replicating a run to completion program, all of these commands really only should be executed once. And because of that, we should put them in our setup function. Now, I know some of you might have done this exercise and put them all in your draw function and it would look the same, but the back end of what's happening in the computer is not the same. So let's try both and we'll see and talk a little bit about why they're different. We'll start with the one where everything is just in the setup function. So we'll do our background command, pass it in the value of 0, our fill, 255, 255, 255. And again, I'm typing all of this out instead of using copy paste, because it helps build up our muscle memory for when we're coding. It also helps prevent any special characters from being inadvertently copied over from the PDF. And our programs aren't that long yet, so we can still get away with it. And I would encourage y'all to do the same. Try typing them out all at once. So I put all of my commands into my setup. If I try to run this right now, the computer starts yelling at me again. It's telling me there's some sort of issue here. It's highlighting my draw function and says, hello, we are expecting something after this semicolon. Of course, it's not as clear as I am. It's telling me something needs to be indented. But because I've been doing this for a while, I know that what it really means is it's saying, where's my body of my function? I don't know what to do here. And if you'll remember from the textbook, whenever we use our setup function, we have to have our draw function. But if we don't want to include any commands in our draw function, we just use this special word called return. And what that tells the computer is it says, just go back to where you came from. There's nothing for you to do here. And we'll get into a little bit more of what that means in more detail later on in your computer science career. But for now, we can just say, okay, this is kind of like telling it to say, hey, skip me. I have nothing to add to this conversation. And now if we hit run, we get a beautiful black background with 2 rectangles that are white. And if you look at this canvas, it kind of looks like a pause button. Now we could take all of this information, copy it down here. I'm already breaking one of my cardinal rules I just told you, and put it there instead. And if we have nothing for this, we could actually just leave this here for now. And let's see if we get any different behavior out of our canvas. So let's stop the program. I'll get rid of this canvas. And now we run it. And it's going, and it looks exactly the same. Doesn't look any different than what we've seen before. So what's actually happening? Well, what's actually happening is every 60 frame or every 60 parts of a second, this is getting redrawn by the computer. I can change one of these colors, stop it, and then try to rerun it. And now you see how it kind of flashed at us? The first setup ran, and now it's doing this one over here. And while this is a very useful feature, and we'll use it in our future exercises, it's not great for recreating a program like we had on the slide. And really what we want to do is just have our return down there, and that would be the true correct answer. Okay? So for exercise 2, you're going to write some processing code that draws a single circle, and it's going to follow the mouse. Actually, I think we're going to do this one together. We're going to have a color of the circle will be blue, the sides will be 55-50, and the background will be black. So I'm going to take this code that we had here. I'm going to delete what we just had. We're going to keep our setup function. And the very first thing I'm going to start with is making sure my background is black. And I'm going to leave in my return here. And what I like to do when I'm programming is every single time I change my file, I like to run it to make sure it's working as I intended it to. It's a lot easier when our programs get more complicated if you run them lots of times as you're making changes, because if something's happening that you don't want to happen, then you're able to figure out, oh, hey, that line I just added, I need to go back and look at that, and that's probably giving me something that I don't want. Maybe it's the wrong color, maybe it's a behavior that we don't want. It makes it a lot easier. So save and run your programs frequently. It will save you a lot of headaches in the long run, all right? All right, so we have our background. In our draw function, we want to draw a rectangle. So a circle, not a rectangle. Let me code an ellipse in here. I'm not going to worry about the color quite yet. And what I want to do is figure out, okay, I know I'm going to need some sort of X and Y in here, and I know I want it to be 50 by 50, but what am I going to use for our X and Y coordinates? Remember, the exercise says it needs to follow our mouse. Okay, I'm sure my mouse could have some kind of X and Y coordinates associated with it, but how am I supposed to know that? Well, you're not. The computer should know that. And in fact, processing, remember, gives us two very special variables. And remember, variables are just placeholders that tell the computer, I want you to keep track of whatever this value will be at runtime and give it that value at runtime. I might not know it while I'm coding, but at runtime, when the program is running, figure out what that value is and put it in this place. So in processing, we have two very special variables called mouse X and mouse Y. And what those do, it gives the XY coordinates of our mouse or our cursor, that little thing that's doing circles on my sketchpad right now, gives us those coordinates as the X coordinate for mouse X and Y coordinate. So we can use that to draw all sorts of fun things. We can use that to change colors. We can use it to change sizes. We'll do all sorts of different things with that. Because they're special variables that are built into Python, to processing, we get them in this lovely pink color, okay? So if I run this now, so remember background will run once, and then draw is going to run a whole bunch of different times. So in theory, if I move my mouse around, it should draw circles in all of these different places. Stop, run. Where's my canvas? Let me see if I got rid of it by accident. Nope. Did I do something wrong? There's the other question. If I get rid of this line, put my return back in, and let's run. Oh, goodness. Oh, here it is. I did have it minimized. My bad. Got so many of them open. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let's put this back. We don't need the return if we have a command in there. And hit run. There it is. And look at, as I am moving my mouse around, we're getting all sorts of different circles being drawn. Look how much that draw function is being called. Every time it's being called, we have a new circle being placed, where at the center of it is on the X and Y coordinate of my mouse. Fabulous. It looks like a little caterpillar. I could honestly play with this today for days. It's so entertaining. I'm going to stop that. One thing that I will do for this, just because I want more space to play around in, is I'm going to change the size of my canvas and make it bigger. So I'll make it 500 by 500. When I do this, look at all of that space. This is fabulous. I'm telling you, I just find it so entertaining. All right, we'll stop that. Now our color of our circle is supposed to be blue. So inside of our draw, we will fill. And remember, when we're filling and we're specifying a color, we do R, G, and B for our colors. So if we do 0, 0, and 255, that's like max blue and no red or green. If you want to pick a nicer color for that, you can feel free. And now we have a beautiful blue circle. Now, I don't think this is exactly what the question was asking. It didn't tell us that we should leave the circle we just drew in place on the canvas. It says we should have a circle that follows the mouse. We have lots of circles here. If we wanted a circle, we need to do something a little bit sneaky. We need to take this background and effectively include it in our draw function. So what that's going to do is it makes it like it clears the canvas every single time. Because we put it in the draw function, we don't need to include it in our setup function. If you didn't have this size here, you'd put a return just to tell the computer, hey, we're still making an interactive program, but you don't need to do anything in setup. Just skip to draw. And now when we run this, I have a circle, a single circle that follows the mouse, which is very cool. There's all sorts of things we can do with this mouse X and mouse Y. We could even use it to change the colors here. So they don't only have to be used in commands that draw shapes. They could be used to influence the background. Say if we wanted to change this so that the background color changed depending on what the mouse X position was. If we ran this, look at that. That is just horrendous. It's like 90s internet, early 2000s internet all over again. So we have all sorts of things we can do. Because remember, what this is saying to the computer is, I don't know what this value is right now. I know I want it to be related to the X coordinate of where my cursor is. When I hit run on the program, and you call the draw function, and you're calling the background function, and you're trying to figure out what this value is, just take wherever my X and Y is, or my X is on my cursor, and plop that value in right there. And that's exactly what it will do for you, which is awesome. All right. So here we have some more processing code. The question is asking us, what is this going to do? We have our setup function, so we know it's going to be an interactive function. Setting our canvas to a 300 by 300 canvas. Inside of our draw function, we're not doing anything. So if we only had those two things, okay, we'd have a canvas and it wouldn't look like a whole heck of a lot. But we have these two other functions here. Pop quiz, do you remember what these two functions are from the textbook? That's right. They're special functions that when the user performs an action will get called. So as we might be able to infer from the title, the mouse clicked function gets called when the user presses down and releases on the mouse. Can we see that? I don't have my... I went to use my mouse that I'm holding up. Hopefully you could have seen that. But it's not just the down press, it's the release as well. The combination of those two is when this would get called. And the key pressed is when the user presses literally any key on the keyboard. So that would get called. So when a mouse is clicked, we're going to fill with a certain color and draw a circle at that position. When the key is pressed, we're going to fill with a different color and draw a circle at the current cursor position as well. So what I would encourage you to do is convince yourself that my definition of what this exercise is actually is what it's doing by writing this code into processing and trying it out. Click some different parts of the canvas, see what kinds of circles you get. Press keys with your mouse in different positions on the canvas and see where you get circles. And convince yourself that your instructor is correct. All right. I also want you to do exercise 4 by yourself. So you'll open a processing program and you'll start out with a 255 by 255 canvas, and you're going to be making an interactive program that does these different things. So it will be very similar to this program up here. It's interactive, so you know it's going to need setup, you know it's going to need draw, and then we want these two different features incorporated into it. So when we click the mouse, we're going to draw a 50 by 50 circle, very similar to this, at the mouse location. So identical to this command here on exercise 3. But you're going to change the color of that circle so that the green portion of the RGB value is equal to your cursor's X coordinate. So you're going to have to use maybe mouse X where you would put the green value. And the blue is going to be equal to the Y coordinate. So maybe mouse Y, where you put the blue value, and then there'll be no red at all, so a value of 0 there. So that would all go into the mouse clicked function. So very similar to this, and really what you'll be changing is 2 of the values in this fill function. When a user presses the key, we'll clear the canvas, so key pressed. You're not necessarily doing this. We're going to clear the canvas, which remember, we could use our background function to make it seem like the canvas is being cleared. And the background color will be set to a shade of gray equal to the mouse's current X coordinate. So very, very similar to what we just did in my little demo that I might have drifted from the script on. So we're using that mouse X value as the input to the background color. Now this wouldn't go in draw, this will go instead in our key pressed function. And we wouldn't have any circle, we won't have any fill there, because all we're asking is to clear the canvas and set it to gray. All right? And you can check your code with the solution code that we have posted on the course website. The final one that I'll leave is there's all these fun other examples that you can try. So you can only use these different statements. Ellipse with the mouse X, mouse Y, 50-50, so that's a circle. The background of 0, and then a return. And you can add them anywhere into this template. So into the setup function, into the draw function, or into the mouse clicked function. So remember, setup is called once at the very beginning. Draw is called continuously as the program is running. And mouse clicked is called once when the mouse is pressed. And what I want you to do is take those statements, put them into this template, and create all of these different effects. So a stream of circle that follows the mouse, which we kind of already did earlier, but then when we click it, we would clear the canvas. As soon as I say clear the canvas, you should be thinking, mouse clicked, background, resetting it, perfect. Then for the next time, you'll take the template and you'll say you want a single circle that follows the mouse, which we did very earlier on, and nothing is going to happen with the mouse is clicked. So probably we want the computer to just kind of ignore that mouse clicked function. And then a circle that will appear whenever the mouse is clicked. And if the mouse is clicked somewhere else, the circle will move to that spot. So every time the mouse is clicked, maybe we need to clear the canvas and redraw a circle. Again, the solutions to all of those are posted on the course website, so you can take a look at those. And if you have any problems with them, join the help hours. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it anymore, but here I am. Join the help hours, come to tutorial hours. We're here to help, and we'd be happy to help walk you through any of these exercises. All right, we'll see you in the next chapter.